on this computer. And we are now recording. All right. So let's go back to that and share. All right. So we have to npm install PG, which stands for Postgres. And we should see that hop up in our dependencies. And now we have Postgres. All right, now in the knex file is the next place you go. You can see right here we have a development that's an SQLite 3. It's got cars DB, it's got all that stuff. Actually, let me real quick here. Let me pop this up. Where's that at? Let me bring this one up so I can use it for reference. And then let me, wow, sharing is paused. Bring your shared window back to the front. Oh, okay. That's weird. I'm becoming the one with the Mac, I guess. Resume share. I think I might have just broke mine the way you had yours broke there, Sunil.
I'm sorry, say that one more time, please.
I said, I think I might have just broke mine the way you broke yours.
Oh, the NPM?
Yeah, let me try this. Oh, there it is. Okay. I'm talking about the screen sharing thing.
Oh, I think I fixed mine today after your help.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
now let's bring this back over. I see what it does. It actually creates another screen in the background.
But we can share, we can see your screen.
You can see my my
Connect
back
file.
to meeting. Or you can see the knex file.
Yeah.
All right, let me just minimize this then. Let's go ahead and minimize that. And there we go. All right, now let's see if I can bring this one back up where I want it. There we go. All right, cool. I always got to remember this. So when you set up Postgres originally, the first thing you don't need is this connection. This connection where it says, matter of fact, I'm just going to comment this whole object out. Actually, I'm going to copy it first. Copy, return, and paste it. And I'm going to comment this one out. All right, so the connection for Postgres is not a file name anymore. We're going to ditch that file name. This is actually, oh, by the way, you got to set your client to PG. I'll do that first. That's now the package that you're using. Instead of SQLite 3, we're going to be using PG for Postgres. And your connection is actually your connection details. So the connection details are like the host, the port, the user, the password, and the database. So we'll start first by going to, we're going to give this a host. The host, when you're developing locally, is always localhost. And I believe that's got to be in string format. So localhost, and then we'll give it another one, which will be the port. The port is by default 5432. And we'll give it the user, which unless, I'm sorry, not a string. The user, which by default, unless you changed it when you set it up, is always Postgres. And then it's going to ask us for a database, which we're going to leave blank at the moment because we haven't set that up. And then it's going to ask us for a password. Which a password, how many of you all know how to use .env files, like environment variables?
I do after today.
How about what about the rest of the group?
Not really.
Okay, so what a .env file is, an environment variable file, is exactly what it says. It's specific to your environment. So you can create this file on the root of your project and use a package called .env, which I think I have that package installed. Yeah, right here, this .env. And you can use that to tell certain parts of your code to look into that env file for sensitive things like JSON Web Token secrets, passwords that you need to do things, stuff that you don't want going public because it'll never go to source control. And these are the same things that you'll have to set, like when you deploy this app to like Heroku or something like that. They have the, I don't know if you guys remember the Heroku deployment where you had to set your environment variables up. Sometimes you did. It's the same thing. And how you do that is, I'm not worried about my password. I'll show it to you guys. But on the root of the project, you create a file that's literally .env. That's a .env file. It's not a JavaScript file. It's not anything. And the text is very basic. So what we're going to set up is I'm going to set up a variable called db_password. And convention for this, like best practices, they say, is all caps. Almost like for Redux, when you're setting up action names, how it's all caps, the same exact thing. And I'm going to set that equal to the password I'm going to use is Mustang85. All right. And now I save that. That's stored in the environment variable file. And like if you see when I close this and you look over here, you see how it's gray like the node modules? It's automatically set up through the source control to where that never goes on GitHub. That never goes anywhere. It's specific to your computer and your machine. So nobody can ever like hack into it and get your stuff. So we set up a db_password. So now if we go into knex file, oh, that's because I didn't put anything in here yet. So in here, in order to use .env, you have to bring it in wherever you're going to use it. And how you do that is you type in require, and we're going to require that package, which is .env, and then you're going to invoke it by giving it a config invoked. And this allows you to start using that env wherever this is invoked. And we're going to use it right here. And how you invoke that is typing in process.env, and then the name of whatever variable is in that env file. In our case, is db_password. So now that that's saved, now you'll be able to see this on source control, and you'll be able to see the environment variables. A lot of times you'll have environment variables for all of these, especially on deployment and stuff. This will all be set to an environment variable that you'll program, so nobody can ever go into GitHub, public or private, hack GitHub, and get the passwords to your deployed database. So that's how environment variables work. So that's a quick dissertation on that. Now the database we haven't set up yet. We have to set that up by going into Postgres or pgadmin. Postgres should be running on your background. So we're going to go into pgadmin and wait for this to open up. And hopefully this is like my Windows machine where I can just drag stuff over. Do I have to toggle the share? How does that work? How do you tell I'm a new Mac user? This is pissing me off now.
What are you trying to do?
I was just trying to drag my browser over to the shared screen.
So I think you can do the, if you do 3 or 4 fingers and you swipe up, it should show all of your open browsers on the top.
Okay, so 3 or 4 fingers and swipe up like that?
Yeah, and you
4
should
fingers
see
there.
which ones, and I think you should be able to bring that window
Over this way? Like that?
over into the shared screen, and you should pop.
I think
Okay.
he might have either VS Code as full screen or he's only looking at the VS Code on share, which means even if he does that, we wouldn't be able to see it.
I do have VS Code full screen, so let me get that back up. I'm a Mac rookie. I'm sorry, guys.
It's not an easy
All
transition.
right, so let me take this out of full screen. Okay, now you guys can see multiple screens.
No.
You still only see VS Code? Arr. Man. Desktop 1, that's what I'm sharing. Okay.
Can you
Share. Let's try that now. How about now?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Learn something new every day, right? All right. So I'll just keep this open. Can everybody still see this pretty good?
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. So now we got pgadmin. When you open it up, it's going to ask you for your password, your master password, which is whatever you set it up to when you set it up. And now on the left, you'll have servers. When you click this open, you'll see Postgres. Postgres has its own password. When you install Postgres, you set this password. So this is the password that in that knex file, this is the password it's looking for when you're setting up your database. So make sure that password that you set to your environment variable is that password. So in here, you can see I got a couple of databases going. Just the Postgres one's always going to be there. This one's for my labs project. But what you do is you right click or 2-finger click over it, and we're going to create a new database. And then we're going to give the database a name. And here we'll give this web2. That's what we'll name this one. Save. And now it's going to create that web2 database. Click into it, we'll activate it, make it live. Database is now connected. So now we have created the database. So if we go back to VS Code here, that name is now web2. So this is now our name. That's everything for the knex file. So let's see if it works, shall we?
Name.
So, what's that?
The host name.
The host is localhost. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, shouldn't it be, let me see. Are we supposed to change that one?
No, it should just be host. It's always going to be localhost while you're running it locally on your machine. But otherwise, like if you get, when you deploy this to like Heroku or AWS or wherever you're going to deploy it and use a Postgres database, they will give you a host URL. They'll have one called database URL, which is like a really long string, and then they'll have one which is just the host location. That's what would go here if you were setting that up. So I'm going to try it and see if it works. I'm going to start with migrate rollback just to see if I can talk to it without an error. Oh, it says I'm already at the base. I didn't get an error. That's a good sign. So now we're going to knex migrate latest. And we're going to see if we can migrate that. Okay, it said it ran it. So let's see if our migration's there. We're going to go into Web 2. You go down to schemas, open that up, and you go to tables. And you see I have a cars table now. And if I click over and highlight that cars table, and I click this little icon up here, that should show me, if you have data in there, it'll be right here. Right now it's empty. All we did was migrate it. So now we're talking to that database. So let's go ahead and, I think I got some seeds in here. Yeah, I made one. I have one seed. So let's plant the seed, shall we? Let's see if it works. Knex, seed, run. And it said it ran the seed file. So if we go back over here and we refresh this server, which I'm trying to remember how to do. There used to be a button up here to refresh. Man, this Mac adjustment's real, man.
It's automatically running the select all from cars query.
That's a query editor. It just kind of gives you an example of it.
Oh.
You can, like, if you're curious, almost like when you did wrote those queries on that weird website that he sent you to on day one. You do the same thing in here on your database. So if you're curious about what queries you need to write to, you know, for your knex, you can come in here and write them and see what you get back and say, oh, okay, that works. That's what I want. I'm going to go put that in my code now.
Yeah, that's nice.
So let's refresh this. Did it refresh? Refresh. It should be there. Why are you not showing me anything? Do I have to connect to it and reconnect it? Refresh the whole thing? All right, let's go back to cars. I'm just clicking around hoping something shows up here. There it is. I had to like completely click out of it and come back in. So yeah, we seeded the database. And that is how you connect Postgres.
And that's it?
Yeah, that's it. It's done. We're officially developing on Postgres now.
Oh, that's so cool. And like all the query that we do in the database, everything is the same thing though, right?
Yeah, anything that works on SQLite 3 will work on Postgres, but Postgres gives you extra tools, allows you to do something cool. Like I'll give you a prime example here. Let's take a look at the router here. I just did a get and a post. Did I do any edits or anything in here? I don't think I did. So let's do an update. We're gonna make an update model for this real quick. And update's going to take in an ID and the changes. And we're going to return DB cars. And we're going to where the ID matches. We're going to update. I believe it's called update, right?
Yeah, update
Yeah,
changes.
update the changes. Okay, so this is a normal update command. So I'm gonna go write the route for this real quick. So let's bring over cars router. We're gonna router.put. We're gonna put that to /:ID. We're gonna give it our homies. All right, so in here we're gonna call carsDB. I'm not gonna run any kind of middleware or anything, not for this. carsDB. Wait, I'm doing this wrong. carsDB.update. Update, we're gonna send it in the request.params ID. And then we're gonna send it in the request body. All right, and then we'll get our usuals .then. .then, we're gonna get a new car back. And we're gonna response.status. Make it a 200. .json. Our JSON return is gonna be that car. And then we'll get a .catch for an error because I probably created an error doing this. We will find out. And response.status 500.json. And in our JSON, we're going to give the error.message. All right, so we just made a new route. So let's see if this stuff works. How about that? Oh, I didn't mean to do that. All right, so npm run server. Let's see if it crashes. Is it gonna break? No, it says it's running on 5,000. We have a chance. Well, let me drag stuff over into the screen now. Hey, you can see Postman, right?
Yes, yes.
All right, so this is the way I clicked on things and it screwed it all up. That's okay. Actually, I wanna hang on to these. I'm using them for labs. We're just gonna add a GET request. And we're gonna go to localhost 5,000 slash 500, no, 5,000. And let's take a look at where we gotta go. What do I have in the router? Cars. So we're gonna go to cars. Cars. I think that gives me all the cars. Let's send it, see what happens. Oh, there's only one car in the database, but it's there. So I got an array of cars. So now we can edit this car. So if we change this to a put, and we're gonna give it, it's got an ID of 1. Let's give it a body, some JSON, and we're gonna edit one object in here. Let's change the make. We'll change the make and model. I can't really call something a Ford Tahoe. People be like, huh? So we're gonna change the make from a Ford, and we're gonna change the model to a, I don't know, how about a Mustang? All right. So let's send this, make sure this works. It was successful. Everybody's gotten this one, right? And they tell you, oh, you want to return if you want to return that object, you got to make another database call. Well, everything comes with a cost, especially like this is why larger corporations have gotten away from SQLite 3, because SQLite 3 worked phenomenal, other than it was just too simple. You couldn't do a lot with it. So if I was to do this and I got the success message of 1, I would then have to, if I wanted to return the updated object, I'd have to make another query to the database, find by ID. By the ID, I just edit it and return that object. I believe a lot of you had to do that in the project today, right?
Yeah, I did that also.
And watch what you can do with Postgres. I'm going to go into that model that I created right here for this update. And where the update changes is, I'm going to do a comma space and quotes and a star symbol for everything. All right. And then on this, I'm going to chain it with a .then. And just like any other promise, then I'm going to get back a car, right? Well, I'm going to wrap that first. I'm going to wrap it in square brackets, then parentheses, and then car. Because this object is going to come back as an array with an object in it. But I just want to return the object because an array with one object is kind of pointless. So I'm destructuring it as an array right here. And then I'm going to make that a fat arrow and say car. So I'm going to return that car that I made. Well, that's not liking that, is it? What did I just do wrong? Man, did I mistype this? It should be dot then. I'm going to do a car. Maybe I was backwards. And I'm going to return the car. No, that's going to make it an array. Now it's making me look dumb. Parentheses, then square brackets car. I was backwards. Sorry. There we go. So what we're doing is we're destructuring that array out of it. So think of this like anything to the left to the fat arrow, you can destructure an object. You can destructure an array like that, especially if you only get one object. Everything to the right of that fat arrow, like if I wrap this car with square brackets, it would take that object and make it an array with an object in it. Or if I wrapped it with the object curly braces, it would be an object with an object in it. So you could do that vice versa. But just by adding that little bit of code right there with that star and that line, I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to edit this again. And we're going to make it a, we'll make it back to we'll make a Tesla. And we'll make it the model's just going to be 3. Let's see what happens. Bam! Automatically return my updated object.
Oh, that's so cool.
Pretty sweet, huh?
What's the star doing in that?
What's that?
The
Star is
star.
selecting everything for the object that's targeted that you're changed. So like instead of the star, I could return just the ID if I wanted to. So like if I came back in here and I changed this to just ID and saved it that way, it might lose its mind a little bit here. Because every time I've done this before, I've always put ID in this field, but it shouldn't matter. So let's make this we'll call it a taco truck. Yeah, there we go. Taco truck with an equal sign. Why not? All right, now if I send this, I should just get back the ID of the object, which is 1. And I can make it to where, okay, I don't want the ID, just return me the make. All right. So we can make it just return the make, and we'll make this, we'll change this back to, we'll call it GMC this time. Send. And return me the make, GMC, that's it. So that star is like that, you know, like the select star that you use, like when you're selecting everything out of a table. Well, on the Postgres side of it, in the model, on the returning side, it targets everything in that object that you updated. This works for updating and posting. And I haven't messed with it on deleting because I've never had to. Normally when you delete something, it's gone anyway. Well, who cares what it is when it comes back? But yeah, so you can return anything you want out of there. Star just always seems to be the way to go because you can do so much with that object, like re-update state on the front end, things like that.
You can do that also in the post insert, right?
Yeah, like if I want to do on the insert here, where I did the insert car.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can kind of see where I did something like that. But insert, we're gonna insert car, then we can call dot then. We'll call it let's see, we'll call it car again. Actually, I want to destructure that because it's going to come back as an array more than likely. And then we'll call car. Let's see what we got then. Oh, I got to set it up to return. Yeah, it doesn't work unless you set it up to return. All right, so we put that in there. Now I got to remember what's in my object that's not nullable. Let's take a look in the migration real quick here. Oh, everything's not nullable but the transmission and the title. So let's go make an object. Let's
What I
do a
did to return instead of getting the number when you insert stuff, what I did was I made it a get by ID, and in my then would just return the get by ID and as if it was its own sub CRUD operator. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would insert and then get.
And then you run the get function inside the model itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's another way to do it too. There's so many ways to do this back end stuff. It's crazy. These are just some of the things I picked up on the Postgres side of it that actually make it like easier for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like seems simpler. Let's do that's the job info. So I'm gonna change this to a get just to see what this looks like real quick. Oh, never set it up for multiple cars. All right, now let's do cars one. Oh, we're just posting to cars. So cars post. We're gonna post, let's see. I'll make this a Ford truck. I gotta give it a VIN. So let's give it a VIN. And I'm gonna make that, oh, 1F, yeah, there we go. That looks like a good VIN number. And what else? Mileage. Mileage, we will make the mileage. I don't know, it's fairly new. We're gonna call it 25,000. All right, I don't need the transmission title or ID, should be automatic. So let's send this, see what happens. Return to object.
Boom.
So you don't have to make that second query to the database with Postgres because it'll do it for you if you write the code for it.
Oh,
And you can do the same thing with async await as well, like with promise chaining, so on and so forth. What we just did was promise chaining, but you could async await that same function. So, because I don't know, if some of you are fans of async await, you can set that up this way too. So like the insert car, if I wanted to async this one, we can just async. Oh, I'm putting in the wrong spot, ain't I? We're gonna make this an async function, and then we're gonna say const new car equals await. We're gonna await db cars, and it's gonna do dot this, and then we're not gonna have a dot then anymore. So then we're just gonna return the new car like this. That should work as async await. So let's insert another one and see what happens there. Oh, where'd my postman go? Let's see, take some numbers out of that. We'll give it 50,000. And we're gonna make this a Toyota. And oh, it brought me back double away. Okay, so I gotta destructure it then the opposite way here. So it brought me back a double array. I don't want the double array. So we're gonna take it off of here and we're gonna put it up here. This is just saying same thing as going from the left to the right of the fat arrow. I'm doing the same thing in this function as well. So I just basically destructured it in the const variable call. So now that should just be an object without an array when I do that. So let's do that. Let's make another one. Toyota. Oh, how about a Camry? And they run for a while. 150,000. Send. There we go. That's more of what I was looking for. All that without having to make the second query to the database. And from what I hear, granted, I can't talk from experience. I don't have a job in a big corporation or anything. But from what I hear, when they get larger companies, that's huge. Because everything comes at a cost. And when you're got an AWS account and you're paying so much a month because of all of your traffic, if you can cut down one database query per endpoint, that could save you, truthfully, it could save you thousands to tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on the size of the company. You do this in an old company, you get a job and you change that and save them 10, 100 grand, they might give you, like a $5 an hour raise. Never know. So any questions on that? That may Make sense to anybody?
Yeah,
Everybody?
I was wondering about the star again. What I could look that up on? Was that the Postgres or is that knex?
This star part with the return, that
Yeah.
is, it's done through knex. It's called returning.
Okay.
So like if you've ever set it up for returning, like Luis, when you start to learn writing these model files, he's going to have you write some returning. Most of the time he'll have you returning the ID, and you'll see this error come up in your terminal as you're running. It'll say returning not supported by SQLite 3, and he'll flat tell you in lecture, ignore that error. That's SQLite 3, but it'll be good for when you do Postgres. So he kind of teaches you as it goes with it.
Yeah,
It doesn't break SQLite 3, but it throws a little yellow warning saying it's not supported. But yeah, but that's pretty much what you're doing is you're returning it, and then I'm sending it back out. Without this .then or this return down here, even if you return this, I don't believe it shows up. The way of a matter of fact, we could try that. Let's see what happens when I comment this line out and just return it on the update. I wonder what it'll do. That's an update. Let's see, I just saved it. So that's an update. We'll pick an object. ID4. We're gonna put ID4. And we'll just get rid of these. Get rid of that comma. And we'll make this instead of a Camry, it's a Corolla. And let's see if it returns the object. No, it just broke. Cannot put. Why? Oh, duh. I gotta give it the ID. Huh, but it returned it as an array. Which for us as React developers is not that big of a deal. But I have noticed working with an iOS team in labs, that array for iOS turns out to be quite a pain in the ass for them. They're like
Can
at
you
all costs.
do first, like, and then within the code?
Yeah, .first actually should get rid of that array on here, on this, I believe. I'm just so used to doing the .then. Let's try and update that again. Ason Altima. I'm gonna run out of names of cars here soon. Oh, it did not like that. Why didn't it like that? Cannot change .first on quote. Okay, so it didn't like .first there.
Is that chaining? I'll look on the knex.
Yeah, was it
There's chaining.
that'd have to be a get by ID, I think, for the first.
It says chainable. First is chainable.
On update?
It says it's a chainable method.
Yeah, it's a chainable. I think it's got to be a get by ID. So let's create one of those real quick. I think that's where that comes through. Function, we'll call it get by. Oh, fed. Get by ID. It's going to take in an ID. Then we're going to return the DB of cars. Dot where the ID matches. Dot first. Yeah, for some reason I think first is only got to be on a get request or get method, because if you're searching, what it does is like if you're searching for, let's say I want if I search where the car make is GMC. If you train .first on it, as it goes through the table, the first one it finds, it'll stop the query right there and just return that one. But if you don't have the .first on there and you have the where on there and you want the GMC, it'll return like all of them made by GMC on like a get request. So like if I chained, matter of fact, we can experiment with that real quick here. All right, so let's go experiment. Let's have some fun. Let's make this a get request to just cars. And we should have about 4 of them in here now, right? 4. Let's chain .first to the end of that. See if it breaks.
Break it, break it.
Let's see if it breaks. Send. Got back the first one. Make sense on the first?
I have a question though. So when we set this up for Heroku for Postgres, Heroku's gonna send us back to the local host. So we will be hosting the server, or
No,
how will
when
that
when
work?
you provision a Heroku with a database, it's going to give you these credentials. Matter of fact, I probably got one going. Hold on 1 minute here. Let's do this. I'm going to stay in PG admin. We'll use this one. I should have one going. If I remember my password. I did change computers, so it's going to ask me for all kinds of stuff. Let's see if it works. All right. Yeah, this is a Postgres database, I believe. So if I go to my resources, you see I got Postgres provision for this. So now if I click on that Postgres provisioning that I have, it actually takes me to a different site because it's hosted separately. And if you click on, I believe it's settings and database credentials, there they are. There's your host, the database name, the user, the port, and the password. And what's cool is you could do all this with the command line. It's actually pretty sick. So like, see, I think I destroyed this back end. But you know how you like, let's say you'll have development running on your local host, and then you'll have a production. You'll have a separate object in this knex file for production, and that's where all those, they'll be obviously stored in env variables because you want to put them there. But you'll have a production set there, and then when you start running your C commands, like knex, migrate rollback and migrate latest, you'll do a space --env space production, and it'll actually migrate from your command line. It will migrate the Heroku database on Heroku for you, all right through the command line. You can seed it, do everything.
So it'll move it from localhost to Heroku?
Yeah, you know what? Let's make one real quick.
Oh.
Let's see here. How do I want to do this? What other projects? I don't have any projects on this computer, man. So let's do it this way. I'm going to break this database, but I don't care. It was just a play around thing. So we're going to copy this. I'm going to put it down here, and I'm going to change the name to production. All right. I don't know how I'm going to view this yet. I might have to put this in Postgres to connect to it. But so I got production. So I got localhost for the sake of just time. I'm just going to copy this. We're going to put it right in here. All right, port 5432 should be the same. All right, the database name. All right, the database is here. And please store all these in environment variables when you go to actually do this on like a real project. All right, we need the user is this string. It's no longer Postgres. And then our password is going to end up being whatever this says it is. Yeah, this one. A little carried away on the password, aren't they? Okay, so now we have a production connection to that database. So let's cancel our terminal. So now let's say, okay, I got my API deployed. I got my Postgres provisioned. I need to seed my database so it works. All you have to do in here is the knex command, and you're going to do a migrate. I always do the rollback first, just out of habit. Rollback, and then you do --env. Oh, do I have that set up on this? I might not. Let me set that up first. Let me take a look. Where is that? Yeah, this right here. So we're going to bring in .env because we're going to need it in here. .config. And then where this is chained on we're going to change the way this is written here. We're going to use square brackets because we're going to have a string in here. We're going to say process presys. Process.env, we'll call it db env, and then we're going to use some pipes. We're going to say or development, like that. All right, what that's doing right there is if there is an environment variable present named dbenv, it's going to use its value. If there's no environment variable present, it's going to use the development variable for our connection here. So when you deploy this in your Heroku app, you can actually program environment variables into the database or into your API. You would have one called dbenv and have a value of production. So on the deployment, it would use the production portion of it. But we have that set up there. So now I can go, when I do this rollback, I can go --env. And this is probably gonna give me a big old error. I just thought about it. They changed their security stuff. And in EMB, we're gonna say production.
Equal production.
I've never had to use the equal.
Oh, that's what I did today. That's the only way I saw it.
EMB production, a big old error. SSL off. Yes, I gotta do that. Where did I do that at? What project was that? I fixed this for somebody on Build Week. What was it now? You gotta add an object in here or in the knex file.
And so Heroku sets up all the security features?
Yep.
Mm.
But yeah, you have to add one piece to the object in here into the connection. I'm trying to remember what it was. I just had to fix this somebody. They changed this last month. And I probably don't have it stored on mine. Who did I help with that? I don't know. I have to research that, but you had it where it's like a security feature and you set it to false. So it allows you to get past this SSL. Because SSLs cost money and we're not spending money on this stuff. So when you go to do like build week and deployments with Postgres, I'll figure out that object and I'll let you know what it is tomorrow and where it goes in here. But I believe it's right after password, or it might be right under the connection where it's like SSL security something default to false, I think it is. I have to look it up and find out for sure. What's funny is Heroku uses AWS. That's what it runs on. So like if you look, my host name is Amazon AWS for the host. But yet if you have an AWS Postgres, you don't need that. You don't need the SSL stuff to migrate it and anything.
Do you get the host name by automatic or do you have to input it?
When you provision the database, it'll give it to you automatically.
Okay.
So like if you were on Heroku, Heroku's website, which would be like here, this would be like when you do your initial deployment, like you guys have done before, where you deploy an API, you have this, you would go to resources and it's called add-ons. And in the add-on, you just type in Postgres. And Heroku Postgres will come up, you click on it and it say provision it for this application, you click yes, and then you end up with this Postgres here. And then at that point, all you gotta do is click on it, which takes you to here, and you can get all the information you need. So you can even destroy the database, reset the database. I'm gonna have to find that object to pass the security because I don't remember what it was now. Man, that's gonna irritate me. I knew that was gonna come back and bite me if I didn't save that. I was like, cool, I figured it out for you guys. I won't have to do it again. Yeah, I will. You guys' build week's coming. I'm sure I'll have to do it quite a bit. But that's Postgres in a nutshell.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah.
So one question, like, if we like, you know how you like you enter the master password first, then when you clicked on the Postgres 12 and you had another password, right? You had to. What would happen if you lose the second password? The first password I saw like you can change it up, but second password, is there a way around it?
I think you have to reinstall Postgres. Yeah, I
Ooh,
think that's what you have to do because that, when you install PG admin, that's where you set up that first password. But when
yeah.
you install Postgres, it asks you for their master password. I don't know. Maybe there might be a way to do it through the Postgres command line. I'm not sure,
Okay.
but I just make it something real simple. Like I think when I set up this one, it might have been taco. I think that was the password I gave it. And store it somewhere where you won't forget it. But there's got to be a way to reset it. If not, you just got to reinstall it.
Okay.
But that's to get into this right here. Let me double click on this. Properties. And if you're ever curious about your connection, you can look it up right here. Just another tip in case you forget. What's the username? What's that? In case you set it to something else, you can go into just right click over the PG12 and check your connection. Because this is actually your server. This is what simulates the server. That Postgres SQL 12, that's your server. These are the databases that live on that server. So when you're setting up the connection, you're connecting to the server, and then where it gets what database to go to is when you tell it the database here. So that's where I don't know if I was telling you guys or maybe it was in the help channel today about companies will use multiple databases on top of having multiple tables. That's how you could take one API and talk to multiple databases if you want to. I mean, from what I've heard, my buddy Joe, he's working for Anchorage. He was telling me, yeah, he goes, the smaller stuff that we use GraphQL and MongoDB for like small things like storing. He says most of it's like employee credentials and stuff, something that's going to be smaller and condensed because it moves fast, but there's multiple queries that have to happen with GraphQL, but it's easy to access and manipulate. He says all the bigger stuff is done through Postgres, but it's all done through the same API. Like he showed me pictures of the files as API system. Some of it was written just like we have in full RESTful format, just like this right here. And some of them were queries and migrations in GraphQL. It was really, really interesting. It looked highly confusing. I was like, man, that's really confusing. He goes, yeah, tell me about it. It took a while. So I've seen that in action in real life. So I know that's a thing. But yeah. That's all I got for you guys today.
I think we made the time today, did we?